Hey guys, what's up? It's Greg Beast here with Jerry Raganese. We're breaking down the Patriot League face-off units. Jerry, how we feeling, man?
Oh, we ain't dead yet. I can't complain.
um, so, Jared, when you look at face-off talent, I mean, there are some of the absolute best players in the country out of the Patriot League, which has known face-off success year in and year out. Um, when we look at last year's leaders, Bailey Savio at 68%, Dan O'Connell, who has recently transferred to Duke, so he's no longer playing for Holy Cross at 66%, Connor Gaffney at 65%. It's interesting. I feel like O'Connell got a lot of notoriety last year, as he should have. I feel like people sleep on Bailey Savio. Why can't Bailey Savio get the credit that he deserves for being, from the time he was a freshman, an absolute stud in this conference?
I just think people don't really give the Patriot League a ton of props. I mean, it's everyone's always talking ACC and whatever. That's really the only conference that's getting a ton of love. And then the only time you really hear about Loyola is that 2012 team that won the whole thing. It's like that Scott Ratliff era. I feel like that Loyola team just doesn't get a ton of love in general, in my opinion.
Yeah, I also think look, you're in Maryland. So sometimes you're in the shadow of the Maryland's, Hopkins, Towson's, but Bailey Savio, all he has done is dominate since he got to school. And maybe I'm a little sensitive to it since I coached him up, but I just feel like he is the Justin Inacio of the Patriot League. I feel like, for instance, all we heard about was O'Connell after last year. We hear about Connor Gaffney all the time, as we should, but people just don't talk about Bailey. And I think he's primed for a good year because he actually was pretty proficient standing neutral grip when he needed to back in the day. I haven't seen him train of late, but I have to assume that when you're talking about hand speed, athleticism, especially the ability to counter, that's what I think he can really wreck people with if he's got his footwork down. So I think that gives Loyola a very big advantage in this conference.
Yeah, like you said, I think counters are really is what's going to separate the men from the boys this season. Guys who kind of get out of their own head as far as trying to dominate that top rail. Because you can just go for guys left hands down and shovel and push them off the ball. And if anybody's going to be able to do that, it's going to be Bailey Savio, who's just seems to be a tier above as far as athleticism is concerned. And I'm excited to see what he's able to do this year.
Yeah. A good point, too, about the shovel counter. You're noticing, I think I'm using Alex Stathakis as a perfect example for everybody I speak to. I've been talking to guys this whole morning. You know how it is, like Monday morning quarterback. You're working with the face-off guys who played this weekend. And I'm using Alec as a perfect example. When you watch him in the first game against Utah, you and I were like, oh, he's figuring this stuff out. And everybody else, on TV, oh, TD's coming. He's got to. Second game, he was great. He got, he had a game under his belt. Second game against Duke, he was great. He was pretty efficient against UNC, all things considered. As we said, Tucci has a very good chance of being an All-American this year. I thought Alex Stathakis proved that not only has he learned from the first game, but he's got more of a timing down. I think the officials as well have been a little bit better about getting the guys set before backing out. And then he added the counter shovel. And you saw when he would lose the clamp, he was very quick. Instead of hanging in there like he would in the first game, now he's immediately reacting. And you and I have been screaming at the top of our lungs since the summer, don't rotate. Get to the ball after impact, make your decision whether to go out or to counter. So I just wanted to extend on what you had just said. So now let's go to Lehigh. We know a lot about these two guys. This is one of the craziest 1-2 punches you could ever hope to have if you're Coach Cassis in college lacrosse.
Yeah, you got Sisselberger, who is pound for pound the stakiest kid in college lacrosse, maybe. He came in this summer. I was like, who the hell is this kid? Like, I came in with his like water jug and just like came waddling in. I'm like, what are you doing, man? He's like, I'm just lifting a lot. I'm like, all right, my man. But I mean, he's moving a ton of weight and it's not slowed him down. I know he still likes to be top rail heavy, but he does show the ability to counter and rake. And I think he's very comfortable in his position of being in that rotation 1-2. And then Gaffney, I mean, I feel like he's been in college for 10 years. I mean, he's been starting as a freshman all the way back in like 2016 or 2017. You can't fake that kind of experience. And I believe he was standing when I was working with him in high school. So, I mean, this shouldn't be anything new for him. And Connor's just a tremendous athlete overall as well.
Yeah, you have two really big time athletes with good hand speed. The question is going to be, and like we've been asking, who's the counter guy? You're going to have Connor and Sisselberger, who are going to be very similar as far as strength, size, power into the ball. Are they going to go plunger, plunger, plunger? Like, we've been watching the game so far. It's 80%, 90% plunger every single time. Is there a changeup guy just in case things get a little hairy or they need to throw a changeup against an elite level opponent? So we'll see. But Coach Cassis must be elated with the double-headed monster he has over at Lehigh right now. Moving down, let's look at Army. Steven Grabber. He was a phenomenal knee down face-off guy. I haven't seen him at all with stand-up. I don't know what his situation is right now at Army, but I got to assume that he's going to be taking the majority of the draws this year.
Yeah, and I'm not super familiar with Steve. Just saw what he did last year. Good left hand punch. I mean, there's no non-athletic guys on Army, and this standing neutral grip only behooves the guys who are athletes. So I mean, I'm sure he'll take this like a fish out of water. Army guys are all tough. You got to be a hard-nosed face-off guy to succeed nowadays with these new rules. So I'm sure he'll be just fine. And same thing moving down to Navy. Navy has a plethora of athletes, as they always do. I mean, it probably is any man's game. I'd be interested to see them throw probably 2 to 3 guys out there the first couple games just to see who's gonna take the lion's share of the reps.
Yeah, Coach Amplo has a lot of athletic guys he can put out there, and he takes the face-off position pretty seriously. He really wants his guys to be dialed in. I think he has a lot of respect for that position. I think Barry started to come into his own a little bit last year, and the season got cut short. So I would probably look for him. And they also have a sophomore from Avon Grove, Hammond, a Philly guy. So I think you got a couple of guys there right off the bat who can probably do their thing. But you're right. I mean, you got Miller, Labasco, Jaraz. They're all capable, athletic guys. The question is going to be who just happens to have more of the nuance down and can make things happen. So, we'll see if they go by committee or if they give it to Barry, give him the keys and say, look, we're going to back you up with a counter specialist or an LSM. So, we'll see. Now, Holy Cross, like we said, they lost O'Connell. O'Connell was an All-American last year in the abbreviated season. They're used to getting over 60% of their draws now. You got Stuart Pollard. He's a sophomore from Cali. He's actually the all-time Cali career face-off wins leader in the state. That's not too shabby. And Mackenzie, the junior, is also going to be there. So, if you're Holy Cross, what's your mindset? You just lost a guy to Duke who was like, a savage at the stripe for you last year. What's your move now with these two guys?
I think just instilling confidence in them, saying, hey, everything's going to be fine. You have 2 guys. It's not a professional roster, so you don't have to be worried about one guy dressing versus not dressing. And you can roll 2, and one guy stays hot, and you stay with him, and if one guy falls into that counter position, that's how you play him. I think it's actually it probably takes a lot of pressure off both these guys, knowing that they don't have other guys breathing down their throat. So it may actually wind up being a better situation than having 4 or 5 guys trying to get behind you.
Yeah, it's actually a great point. I think when we look at that in contrast to Navy, you're right. That might be the ticket. We don't have to worry about if you're getting reps or not. You're getting the reps. Question is can you just focus on what you need to do to better yourself and to go expose your opponents? When we go down to Bucknell, now Bucknell has a lot of potential here. They have Cravato, he's a sophomore. He was 55% last year. He took the lion's share of the draws. McCusker actually led all of Division I in faceoff percentage last year. He was 3 for 3. So
100%. You can't fight 100%.
You can't beat 100%. So, and then you got Coyle, the rookie, coming in. So, next year they have a couple more. They have another stud coming in. So I think Bucknell likes where they're at right now. But if you're Cravato as a sophomore, you have 55% last year. You come back, you have to feel pretty good about what you can do. But like we had talked about, experience is everything. We waited a week to do this Patriot League because no one was playing last weekend. And we wanted to kind of take a look at what the face-offs look like out there. It looks like the referees' cadences were correct. It looks like Mr. Abbott sent another memo out because this weekend was way cleaner than the first weekend for sure.
Yeah, it was certainly night and day just across the board. It might have been just that first Denver game that got everybody, or at least us, all hyped up about the angles and stuff like that. Just like for these kids, these referees are also getting this down. They haven't seen it before. They haven't refed it before. So, I expect as the season, progresses, we're going to see these referees getting things down pretty perfect. I didn't see too many objectable calls this past weekend. A couple shovels that they called as holds, which were a little ticky-tacky, but that just might be that's how those guys are calling it depending on state to state. But as far as Bucknell is concerned, again, Bucknell's always had a wealth of ability at the position. Our buddy Ryan Dennehy down there does a great job at recruiting faceoff guys. So, I mean, we'll see. Again, this is a super deep conference that people don't really tend to look at all that much. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, it's anybody's game here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's go down to Colgate. Colgate loses Feeney from last year, and Colucci might get the most reps. They have Wilmans, who was an absolute stud in high school, and Giovanetti. He's listed as a faceoff / goalie. So
it's the first one of those I've seen.
I've only seen that one other time. Shout out to Derek Howes, Penn State, 2005. But when I look at Colgate, I'm interested to see what they're planning on doing this year, because Kerwick and crew have been busy on the recruiting trail. They have at least one stud 21 coming in, right? So we have Ethan Kronk. Was somebody else coming in with Kronk?
Yes, there's who's coming in out of Atlanta. Blew out his knee, comeback story of the year. What's his name? Why am I blanking on this?
I don't know, but I feel terrible because I can't remember. Just so everybody knows, we only have so much hard drive up here, so sometimes we forget about
my Dunbar number's shot.
Well, let's just put it this way: you got 221s, and they have 222s coming in. So they are really ramping up for this position. Colgate is going to have a ton of success long term. But let's talk about this year. Their starter's gone, so now they have Colucci, like I said, who's probably going to take the majority of them. But I'm really interested to see if Wilmans can get his reps, because Wilmans was just lights out in high school. You good?
Brett Reynolds,
yes! Yes! Brett, sorry about that, big dog.
that came from back here.
Wow.
Sorry.
It's okay. So what do you think? You have a team. They lose their starter, the guy who took the most reps last year. They have some younger guys. They have a young stud, but they have 4 just nightmares coming up through the rankings in the recruiting world. So how do you play this first SNG, especially in a loaded Patriot League at the position?
Again, I think you go with the two-headed monster. You see who's more counter-oriented. You see who's more, get to the ball first oriented, and you roll that hand. I think there's going to be a lot of odd men outs this year. As far as I think you'll see a lot of teams roll 2. I don't think you'll see teams roll 3. I think we saw that this weekend. I think it hurt a lot of teams that were rolling 3 to 4 guys because nobody ever got in a groove. But the teams that rolled 2 had pretty good success because guys were coming out and showing different looks, especially against the guys that were rolling just one guy. So, I mean, you could see it go, any which way. I would love to see the faceoff guy who's also a goalie get out there. I mean, those are always good stories. But I mean, again, I think it just comes down to who's more athletic and jumping into the counter position versus the guy who's just trying to get over the top in and out.
Yeah, I agree. Now we look at Lafayette. They have a pretty cool situation here. So you have James Turco coming back. He's a sophomore from Long Island. He was around 50% last year. He's very comfortable standing neutral grip. He used to bust it out all the time in draw days against knee down guys. You have Christian Park from DMV, who's got, his hands are speed on top of speed. And Gabe Smithline, who's really started hitting his stride as far as technique goes within the last year. How do you feel things are going to look when you have 3 very capable guys on your roster?
I mean, this is a very interesting group because again, these are three savages. I mean, you got Christian Park, who's got lightning fast hands. You got Gabe Smith, line, who's a high school wrestler, very, very athletic, very aggressive. Doesn't care if he gets to the ball quick or not. Will just play your left hand and ride you off the ball. And then James Turco, again, who's been doing this forever. This is. I mean, I'm sure when he saw these new rules, he was like, okay, great, easy for me. So I'd be interested to see who they roll out with. I think I mean, you can really pick and choose whoever you want here and have success.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when you look at this league right now, if we were to pick, we do this every time. So let's pick two guys. I'm gonna go with Bailey Savio. I think these rules really play well to him, and I'm not going to go too far outside the box because I think Connor Gaffney doesn't lose too much on this. Obviously, he was great at rotating. So that's the only thing I'm curious about, right, is the guys who really dominated the column. And when you talk about, in 2012, we introduced dominate the column. And we always said you had to get your helmet over the neutral zone after the whistle, rotate clockwise, bully your opponent off the ball. Can't do that anymore. If you do that, you're getting beat forward. So the question now is, who can transfer from beat you up and spin you clockwise to punch into the ball with good posture and balance and then explode into a transitional counter? I think Bailey Savio and I think Connor Gaffney can do that. And the only thing playing against a Connor Gaffney getting, all league would be the fact that Sisselberger is just as capable. So maybe coach uses both of them wisely so that they can keep each other fresh. What do you think happens this year?
Yeah, I think until proven otherwise, Bailey Savio's the guy. And then looking at that two-headed monster at Lehigh, I think if you ask Gaffney or Sisselberger, they'll take a national championship over over personal accolades. But I think that's going to be out of the country the 1-2 punch to beat, next to probably the Cuse boys. So yeah, those are my two out of the Patriot League that I'm going to be most interested to see how it progresses. And then as far as like the question marks, I think Navy and Bucknell are probably my two biggest question marks, which I'm not as far as saying, oh, these guys are going to do bad. I'm interested to see what storyline develops out of those two groups.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, somebody has to lead the league in face-off percentage. Somebody has to be last. So we're just taking guesses. But yeah, I think that's, everybody who's a real lacrosse fan loves the Patriot League. So I think them getting started soon is going to be great for everybody. A lot of awesome lacrosse, especially at the face-off position. Potential PLL guys, Bailey Savio, I think, and Connor Gaffney are two guys that I would be shocked if you didn't hear their names in the PLL one day. So it's going to be exciting to watch for sure. All right, guys. So thanks a lot watching. We've been doing these previews. They've been well received. So we thank you. If there's anything you guys want us to add, or if there's a conference that you're really waiting for, we're going to do the SoCon as well tomorrow. If there's any other conferences or there's any comments, please share below. And also make sure you subscribe to keep these going. All right. Thanks, Jer. Have a good one, big dog.
Have a good one, guys.